Welcome, and Kathleen, please provide the introductions.
Good morning. I'm Kathleen Von Atchen. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. And I welcome you to this webinar, which is on Detect, Manage, Threat Detection Solutions for Public Sectors. And so all public sector and school organizations are at risk of a cyber attack. They disrupt the daily activities of our clients more than any other type of disaster. Continuous analysis of your network activity is essential for quick threat detection. And Tyler Technologies Managed Threat Detection Service, which is called Tyler Detect, is a perfect solution for organizations that struggle with day-to-day demands of threat detection, whether due to gaps in technology, workforce, or expertise. So Tyler can confirm and alert you of an infection within minutes of an attack, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all at a fraction of the cost of alternative solutions. In this session, you'll learn about Tyler Detect, the Managed Threat Detection Service, and how it can strengthen your cybersecurity defenses. Today, the presenter who is from Tyler Technologies, and her name is Karen Grosset. And Karen has been with Tyler Technologies since 1998, currently managing cybersecurity sales. Karen keeps up to date on current cyber threat landscape and how it is impacting municipalities. And with this information, she educates internal Tyler resources and municipalities on the need for cybersecurity protection. Before her current role, Karen worked as a Tyler account representative for existing ERP customers across the East Coast. And working closely with established customers for such an extended amount of time gives Karen a unique perspective of municipalities' daily workings and unique needs. And so Karen earned a Bachelor's of Science in Systems Engineering from the University of Virginia. I would like to express our thanks to Tyler Technologies, who were willing to sponsor the conference and provide this presentation. Without them, we would not have been able to deliver this annual conference. And I should also say that we are grateful for their support of Kansas GFOA and appreciate the willingness to support the virtual conference. I encourage all the attendees of this conference to go to our website and check out the Tyler Technologies company profile and resource board information. And then so I'm going to leave it now to Karen to proceed with her presentation.
All right. Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Paula, and thank you everyone who's joining in today, as well as the GFOA. We appreciate the opportunity from the Tyler perspective for sure. So yes, today we are going to talk about Tyler Detect, which is a managed threat detection solution for the public sector, as obviously that's what Tyler focuses on, 100% focused on public sector solutions for government and schools. So it was a great introduction by Kathleen. She certainly spoke more about myself than I do. But the one thing I do like to point out is that I have been with Tyler for over 20 years, working as an account representative very closely with our customers for the majority of that time period. And I was really excited when the cybersecurity solutions came into being, came under the Tyler umbrella, because as working with customers, I do know that it is something that they struggle with in terms of having enough resources, enough time, enough funding to be able to put towards cybersecurity services. So again, I was excited that we now have this to offer and can help keep our customers safe from all the activity that's going on out there, which we'll speak to a little bit of. So why now can Tyler offer these cybersecurity solutions? So I'm sure some of you, I know a lot of our customers in Kansas have the Tyler solution, whether that's a financial solution, court solution, public safety, et cetera. And a lot of you also offer decide to have us host those solutions for you in our SaaS data center, either hosting your data and applications or having us do nightly backups through our disaster recovery service, which just helps us keep you safe and secure in terms of your Tyler data. So we have over 5,000 of our customers who we do house in the data center, and that's over a third of our clients. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything possible to keep their data safe and secure. And as everyone knows who has managed a data center or who tried to keep anything secure within a network, there's no one silver bullet that's going to make you sleep, 100% restful and know you're 100% taken care of. It's all about layering, really, making sure you have enough defenses in place that if a hacker is trying to infiltrate your system, they hit brick wall after brick wall after brick wall, realize you're well fortified, and they move on to an easier target. So one of the layers that Tyler put into place was with a company called Sage and with the service that's now called Tyler Detect. And we started utilizing that back in 2013. So Sage was monitoring our data center for any issues or any events that could put us at risk in terms of cyber attacks. And they'd also been providing cybersecurity services since 2002. So they were very much an innovator in this industry. We loved the service that they provided us, realized that it was, again, something that our customers could really benefit from. And so true Tyler fashion, we went ahead and acquired Sage back in April of 2018 so that we could offer these services to our existing client base. Now, why it's needed and necessary, I'm sure you don't need me to bang the drum on this, but governments are prime targets these days, unfortunately. We're just seeing the numbers increase. We're seeing the attacks increase. We're seeing our customers be impacted, schools and municipalities, by cyber attacks. It doesn't help us to manage you if you're down and you can't access your network, can't access your Tyler systems. So again, this is why we want to have this service to help you keep safe from cyber attacks. But it makes sense that the hackers, they're not dumb. They are intelligent people, and it makes sense that they're targeting governments, because you think of all the critical information that you store, social security numbers, emails, banking information, and then all the critical services that you have, police, fire, utilities, that you need to have running 24/7 to be able to serve your citizens effectively. There was a rash of police departments being taken down, fire departments being taken down. I think it was one weekend a couple of years ago, both the Denver Police Department and Baltimore Police Departments were taken down on the same weekend, and they literally had to run their operations on pen and paper and run dispatch that way. Hard to imagine, but when the hackers hit, that's what you're reduced to, and they were obviously very critically impacted by those events. The numbers are just growing. We know that over 1,000 municipalities were impacted last year with malware. Over 2,000 schools were impacted. They just, with COVID, obviously things are just continuing to grow. I really watched a lot of school impacts and hits and ransomware events in the last couple of months as the school session started back up. And unfortunately, most schools were working remotely, which really expanded their attack surface. So again, the numbers are getting up there. More of our customers and just municipalities in general are being impacted, unfortunately. And I'd really like to take a deep dive into a couple of municipalities that were both hit within a couple of weeks of each other back May of last year. I realize at the end of this year, I'm going to update it, and I'm like, who am I going to pick? But for now, we're still, unfortunately, digging in on Baltimore, Maryland. Again, I know I mentioned them before with the police department, but their entire city was hit as well in May. They've had a couple of incidences. And then Riviera Beach. And I like to point these two out because they're much different scope and size. They handled the attack very differently. And it just kind of, shows how people have to respond and work to get back up and running in full after these attacks. But Baltimore obviously is a very large city, one of our largest on the East Coast, with almost 620,000 population. And about 20 of that is the size is Riviera Beach, Florida. They're still pretty sizable for our Tyler customer base, probably more in the middle tier of our customer base because we do work with much smaller municipalities. But again, when you're comparing Baltimore, Riviera Beach, about the 20th of the size. 50 folks in Baltimore's IT department compared to 10 in Riviera Beach because Baltimore has 13,000 employees that it helps maintain as opposed to 550 over at Riviera Beach. So again, back in May, within a couple of weeks of each other in 2019, they were both hit. Baltimore was hit with what was called a Robin Hood strain of virus, which was very popular at the time. It's kind of died down a little bit, but certainly other flavors have come to take its place. And Riviera Beach was your standard email phishing campaign, which came through and they got hit with. Email phishing continues to be the #1 way that hackers infiltrate systems. Makes a lot of sense. We are also used to the pace and pattern of technology in this day and age. And I know I'm guilty of it as well. I get back from a meeting, I sit back at my laptop, at my desk, and the first thing I do is look at my inbox, and I'm just trying to clean out everything I can as quickly as possible. So unfortunately, that's the pace that we're used to with technology, but what we really need to do is get into the habit of taking a moment, looking at these communications, whether it's an email that's come through, whether it's a phone call coming through, whether it's a text message on your phone, and saying, did I initiate this communication, or is this communication expected? If you feel comfortable in those instances, does anything look fishy about the email? Is the grammar wrong? Again, is it maybe from a source that just doesn't look quite right? I know personally, I've had a lot of emails coming through and they make me giggle, but might make somebody else fearful, and that's what they're working on. But it says, hey, you need to reach out to me because we're garnishing $200 from your wages because of your incident, your insubordination that you had, which again makes me laugh. Our HR department certainly wouldn't reach out that way, and it's nobody, not from a person in our HR department. And I know I haven't done anything wrong. But again, they work on those fears. They work on things that are triggering now, that are trending, especially things like COVID-19. Hey, we've got a stimulus check for you, or hey, we've got free testing. That's how they get people to just quickly click and get excited and not think again if this is an expected email or communication, or if you initiated that. So that's my little preaching moment within this slide, is just be mindful of your communications before you go clicking on things. But at the same time, these hackers are so good. They can compromise Office Microsoft 365 accounts, and you can sit down to an email that looks like it's from your manager with a link in there, and he says, can you please review this spreadsheet? I need to present it tonight at the board meeting, which again, you just praise on you. You want to be helpful, so you want to quickly click on that and review it and give it back to your manager. So some of these attempts can be look very, very legitimate. So, it just takes one click, because it really boils down to, most of the time, human error, which instigates these attacks and these breaches, unfortunately. So in Baltimore, Maryland's case, the attackers asked for $76,000. That was the equivalent of about 13 Bitcoin at the time, compared to Riviera Beach, where it was almost a $600,000 ask. And this was a time frame, and I like pointing this out, because we did see ransoms greatly increase. The hackers went from being very opportunistic, kind of spray and pray, if you will. If we try and hit these 100 municipalities at once, maybe one or two will click on the link and we've got them, and we'll get that money. Whereas they're becoming much more targeted. They do their homework. They understand, if municipalities have large capital funds, if they have money on hand, if they are more willing to pay. So they really do their research, and it's really not hard in this day and age. There are actually a lot of videos on YouTube and the internet that you can watch, and you can see how hackers, they're actual hackers, and they'll tell you how they work, how they can social engineer things, all the information they can find out from your social media accounts and things like that. So they already are equipped with a lot of information and a lot of weapons that they can use to really get to their end goal, which is getting the ransom. They just want to get paid for their efforts. And I'm not here to say whether you should or should not pay. I think that really comes down to, where you are when this happens, and, how your backups are, how quickly you can get back up and running, and what your tolerance is for that. So Baltimore decided they were not going to pay the ransom. So they worked very diligently. They had the IT department, they had to hire third-party consultants, which cost quite a bit. So they had a lot of outlay to get back up and running. They also had a lot of lost revenue because of this event, unfortunately. They had to stop real estate sales for over a month after the attack because they couldn't access their real estate system to confirm ownership of parcels or confirm if there were liens outstanding on parcels. They also couldn't get utility bills out for 5 months after the attack. So that was a lot of lost revenue, and they also waived late fees. So they've been very transparent and upfront and said that these issues, their attack has cost them over $18 million to get back up and running. Now, on the flip side, Riviera Beach did decide it was in their best interest to pay the ransom, so they did pay the ransom in full. They also realized that part of the reason why they were so susceptible to this attack was they had a lot of old infrastructure. A lot of their computers couldn't upgrade beyond Windows 7, which was a big vulnerability. It put them at risk. So they also invested $900,000 in capital funds to upgrade a lot of their computers and infrastructure. So conservatively, this issue cost them $1.5 million. And I really like, Riviera Beach was first of 4 Florida sites that were hit at this time frame. I think it was Key Biscayne was another one, and they did a great follow-up article with them because they had almost a $500,000 ask, and they did pay. And they did an article with the woman who runs the clerk's department. And she goes, yeah, emails back up, phones are working, everybody thinks we're 100% because we paid the ransom, but we didn't get all our data back, even though we paid the full ransom. And that's to be expected. You are dealing with criminals here. A lot of times if they know that you're willing to pay something, they say, okay, well, give us the $500,000, we'll give you half your data back, give us another half, and we'll make you whole. So at best, they say even if you pay the full ransom, you're only likely to get 90% of your data back. And in Key Biscayne, the woman who ran the clerk's department, she goes, what we didn't get back was the information and data from my department. They had spent years digitizing documents like marriage licenses, permit applications, so that if anybody came in and said, can I get a copy of this, they could just quickly click a button and bring up the actual document and provide that to them. And that's, again, the data they didn't get back. So all that lost effort and time was really lost for them. So it's really unfortunate. And I always like to say at this point, if both Baltimore and Riviera Beach had the option of buying into a service that would say, hey, we're going to alert you as soon as that employee clicks on that email phishing and it takes you to this site that isn't right, or we see some evidence of a Robinhood infection in your system, so that you can be proactive and stop these threats in their tracks before they infiltrate your system and bring you down. I think both of them would very much be on board with that service. And that's what Tyler Detect is. It's a proactive service where we are monitoring your system 24/7 and making you aware of any incident, any event that puts you at risk. So it's advanced threat detection, again, in that our expertise, our resources are doing all the heavy lifting for you, monitoring and seeing if anything's putting you at risk. And it also includes incident response support. So if we do need to reach out, we found something, we've confirmed malware on your system, we reach out immediately, make you aware, let you know where it is, where it's infiltrated your system, and how we can mitigate that so that we stop it when it's only on 1 or 2 machines before it spreads and infiltrates your network. And also compliance reporting as well, which is very helpful in this day and age to confirm that you are doing your due diligence when it comes to data security. So let's dig deeper into Tyler Detect. There's no costly hardware involved. A lot of folks, when they are looking at different cybersecurity solutions, they're looking maybe at a SIM, which requires an investment in hardware, but it also requires an investment in time, because that will collect the data on your system that can be analyzed, but then it's still up to an entity to do that analysis for you. Tyler Detect does all that for you in one. What we're doing is we're streaming your security events in real time and then having human experts investigate those and research to see if it's just normal traffic or if it's anything, again, that puts you at risk. And we're looking at everything. Obviously now, malware and ransomware are the biggies that we need to see if that's going on and obviously stop them immediately in their tracks. But anything that could put you at risk, like a zero-day exploit. And I always say, you know, you think of all the systems that you have, all the updates that you do, all the patches that you do. It's almost constant when you're in a municipal environment, schools and towns and cities, with all the applications that you run. And hackers are really, really good. They're expert at exploiting that new code, which hasn't fully been vetted out, which hasn't fully been tested. So we're looking for things like that. Insider threats, I almost, really don't like that idea of somebody, a municipality has an employee who's looking to do harm. It's really almost an insider oops. As I said, we're all wearing so many hats, we're all stretched so thin that people, might not, again, take the time to see if this email really makes sense. And they just go clicking on that link, and it just takes that one click, that one little oops that puts your organization at risk. Administrative activity, if someone is going in and creating new users at a server level or at the firewall level or at granting excessive permissions, these are things, again, that could put you at risk. So what Tyler Detect is doing is looking for any of these clues and investigating them to see if it is possibly putting your environment at risk, and then making you aware of it as quickly as we can. So how we do this is we use your log files. They're basically like the DNA or the fingerprints, the thumbprints of everything that occurs on your network at any given time on any given day. Because every transaction on a network creates a log file, whether you've saved a file to a folder, whether you have launched an executable, whether you've logged into an application. All these create log files. And again, they're like the who, what, when, where, and how, the clues for everything that's going on. And log files are created for everything that happens, for your normal day-to-day activities and for bad activities. If a hacker is on your system right now, maybe downloading code, or has initiated a series of events that are doing things on your network, those create log files as well. So again, it really is the details and the clues of what's going on. So what Tyler Detect does is we take all the log files and transfer them over from your network to our SOC, our Security Operating Center, and we do this constantly, 24/7, in real time. And once they get those log files hit our SOC, that's where our analysts do their work. We have proprietary tools to filter out a lot of the events that we know are innocuous, are your normal day-to-day activities, and we don't need to spend our time investigating those. But then, again, if there's something that is new to us, we haven't seen before, or we just don't have a good feeling of what's going on there with that activity, then that's where the analysts really spend the majority of their time. So the timing of this, let's say from the time someone on your system, in your environment, in your network clicks on a link in an email, it's about 5 to 7 minutes to when we gather those files and transfer them over to our SOC, and where the analysts are doing their work. And then again, if it's something new, we would get triggered, and the analysts would spend their time really digging in and figuring out the nature of that event. And so that takes a little time, but again, if it is something that we deem harmful to your environment, we reach right out. So that's only about a 25 to 30-minute process and turnaround. And timing's important, obviously, because we want to catch these events that could be impactful to your system as soon as they occur, as quickly as they occur, while they're still only sitting on 1 to 2 machines, so that we can mitigate that quickly before it spreads through your network. So thinking about transferring the files again and what we do with our analysis, we basically think of the files and place them into 3 virtual buckets, if you would. The first bucket are events that we've seen before, and we know they're not going to cause you any risk. They're not putting your network in danger. So those kind of, can just go right by. There's not an issue for us. And again, when we say we've seen them before, it's either we've seen them on your network before, or we've seen them on the hundreds of other networks that we're monitoring as well. And they've been vetted out, and we know it's not a behavior that's going to put you at risk. The second bucket are things we've seen before, and we know what they are, and they are putting you at risk. Again, that's where we immediately reach out and make you aware of this behavior and this event and help you mitigate it. Then the third bucket of files and events are things that we either haven't seen before, they're brand new to our analysts, or we've seen them before and we haven't come to an overall conclusion of their risk factor yet. So that's where the analysts really spend the majority of their time, is digging into these events and these activities to figure out what the nature of them are, put them into context within your whole network, and again, see if it's anything putting you at risk or not. Now, when I talk about monitoring the network, what really sets Tyler Detect apart is that we're monitoring everything. This is not just in relation to your Tyler applications and what hardware, what servers your Tyler applications might be sitting on, because that's just really, when you think about it, a very small portion of your entire network. We want to get the big picture of everything, from your servers, all your firewall, your servers, et cetera, down to end user machines. We want to look at hardware, things like your routers, your switches, VPNs, which are really critical these days because they are so widely used, obviously, with folks working remotely and working from other areas and really relying on VPNs to access network and access critical information that they need to do their jobs. And hackers know that. That's a big attack vector right now for them. So please make sure everything's being upgraded and patched accordingly with those. But things like, Windows 365, your wireless, your email, etc. Those are all different areas that hackers get into. So we want information on all that so we can, as quickly as possible, find out if there's any activity on there, any errant activity that we need to know about and make you aware of. But also having a broad view really helps us put things into context and baseline what's going on your network on a day-to-day basis. So it takes us about 2 weeks. We really get a good feel for what the normal day-to-day behavior is on your network. And that helps us detect things out of the ordinary as well, much more quickly, so that we can pinpoint those activities and dig in and drive into those as necessary. So what we also do, obviously looking through all the log files, looking through all new activity, but what we also really want to pinpoint are persistence mechanisms. So persistence mechanisms are things that can survive a reboot, and not all persistence mechanisms are malware, but all malware requires persistence mechanisms to be effective. So again, it's all these new persistence mechanisms that are coming through on the network that we really dig into to see if it's anything putting you at risk. So that's what's happening, kind of in the background with the man behind the curtain, if you will, our team of analysts who are experts, who are all up to date on the latest threat intelligence, who are using human intelligence to figure out what these hackers may or may not be doing on your network. So you think about the threat spectrum. So over on the left, you have things that firewalls and antivirus and anti-malware can detect. And I'm sure everyone's doing a great job setting up their firewalls, keeping their antivirus and anti-malware up to date, which is important. And we wouldn't want tech to take those to replace those, because again, it is all about layering. And antivirus and anti-malware, they serve a great purpose. They're automated tools, but if something comes through, an event comes through that they already know is bad, it's already in their bad dictionary, if you will, they can immediately stop that behavior. So that's really useful. But again, it's all automated. So there's only so much they can do to stay ahead of the curve. They're really keeping up with the curve in terms of the behavior that's out there that could put you at risk. The hackers are really over here on the right-hand side of the spectrum in the red and infrared area, which is where the hackers work, which is really where it takes threat hunting, our analysts doing their job to figure out what's going on with any of these incidents. Because the hackers are humans. They're using human intelligence. And I actually had a customer put it the best way. He's like, you need human intelligence to fight human intelligence. If two hackers are using the same strain of malware, let's say they're using Maze, and they infiltrate the same network, the footprint and the fingerprint of how they did this and what they did is going to look different, even though they're using, again, the exact same tools and infiltrating the same network. So that's why it really takes human eyes and human analysis to figure out what's going on and to figure out, what the risk is and help you fight these incidences and these attacks before they become widespread breaches or widespread incidents that can take your networks down. Because when you think about it, whether it's Baltimore, Maryland, or the big Target or Equifax breaches, all the clues were there. Malware tends to sit on networks for over 160 days before it's detected or before it does something like take a network down. So that's a long time. And the problem is that even though the clues are there and all this activity is there in the background, organizations, and especially our clients in the municipal landscape, just don't have the resources or the expertise to be able to dig in and take the time to figure out what's going on and understand the nature of these events to know that they're putting them at risk and the best ways to go about cleaning their networks up. So I like to kind of take a step back and equate detect. Detect, it's keeping your network safe for your employees, for your citizens, for anybody who comes and visits your schools and your town halls or city halls. Just like when you go home at night, it would be great if there was a service that was doing 360 monitoring 24/7, making you and your family and any visitors to your home safe. So, at nighttime, just kind of like on that left-hand side of the spectrum, it would be great to give you a little alert saying, hey, your front door is still unlocked, or you've got a window ajar, and you can quickly remediate those items. And there are things, if you did your nightly check, you'd be able to see those as well. But then there are things that are, not visible to the naked eye. Maybe you've got a shingle loose on your roof. So it'd be nice to have that information ahead of time so you could quickly shore that up. Kind of like the equivalent of having a port left open 7 days a week, where you really only need that port open for 1 hour of every week to accept a bank file that comes through on Saturday evenings. Or maybe there's a crack in your foundation that is not visible to you because it's on the inside of the foundation, but you want to get that shored up as quickly as possible so that you don't suffer any water leaking or damage to your foundation. Now, I mentioned earlier errant administrative activity. I have 2 teenagers. They're still on the younger teenage side, and I designated a closet in our house that is off limits to anybody but me, because that's where I hide their birthday presents and I hide their Christmas presents and other things that I just don't want them getting into. So it would be great if I'm at work in the afternoon and I got an alert saying, your son is snooping into that closet, and then I can go deal with that as necessary. But at the same time, maybe somebody's approaching my front door and she's dressed in blue and she's carrying packages. I don't need an alert on that because I know every weekday at this same time, my mail carrier delivers my mail. So it's normal behavior, it's expected behavior, it's not putting us at risk. Now, let's say it's 2 in the morning and someone's approaching my house from the backwoods. No one ever approaches our house from the backwoods. It's somebody that's never been on our property before. And on closer investigation, they're wearing camouflage and carrying a crowbar, and they're approaching our back door. So the equivalent of what Detect would do would be to put the floodlights on in the backyard, call 911, and set the alarm system off, and let me and my family know, hey, somebody's back there. You need to leave your house right now by the front door as quickly as possible. So it's the idea, again, of that 360-degree monitoring, 24/7, just making sure you're safe and secure within your home or the equivalent within your network. One other item I do want to mention with Detect, because and what we do on the background is obviously, like I said, we're looking at everything as a whole, your entire network, and we really look at those persistence mechanisms. And what we can do with all this information is really put things into context as well. Just like, I mentioned the mail delivery at the front door versus the intruder coming into the back door, we put those into context so that one looks suspicious to us and the other really doesn't. So let's use an example on your network. Let's say somebody does a Google search at 2 in the afternoon from within your network, from a machine that we've seen in your network before, and the Google search is how to disarm a Stanley door alarm system. Again, that's not going to look too suspicious because of the nature and the origin of that request. It might be that one of the school buildings alarm systems has gotten stuck and the kids need to get out because it's almost dismissal time, so someone's frantically trying to figure out how to disarm that locking system. But let's say that same Google search, how to disarm a Stanley door alarm system, comes through at 3 in the morning from a guest wireless network, from a machine that we've never seen before on your network. That context is far more suspicious to us, and the analysts are going to spend a lot more time reviewing that behavior and those events to see, again, if it's anything putting you at risk as opposed to that other scenario. So again, that's why it's critical for us to have all that information and have all those clues, if you will, at our disposal so that it helps us figure out the nature of the event and if it's putting you at risk or not. So that is what we do on our end, kind of behind the scenes, like I said, if you will. But then what we do is provide you with a lot of information on your side. First and foremost, we provide daily reports, and these are published every business day, and it's a consolidated view of the critical log data for the previous 24-hour period. We don't want to provide you with all the logs. That would be just unmanageable to review. So again, we really just bring forth to light those incidences or events that we want to make you aware of that stand out to us. So these reports are great for compliance. I have a lot of my customers, I do user group meetings and explain the service, and they come up and they say, I just got dinged on our management report or our auditing report about data security. So these reports are wonderful to provide, and they get a good sense of, yes, you're doing your due diligence for data security. We provide not only the daily report, but we do summarized monthly reports as well. I like to say, if you like your auditors, just give them the monthly reports to review. And if you don't like your auditors, make them go through those daily reports. We've also, earlier this year, started management reports too. And these are put out monthly, and they are less for IT folks, but more for management folks, so they can get a quick feel for, okay, this is what Detect does. It helped me, stop this potentially unwanted program. They located this Trojan that we've helped get rid of off our system, and also helped us shore up some of our defenses. We had some ports we were leaving open. We've now since shut those down, except for when they're needed in critical times. So again, that management report is great. It kind of justifies the expense of Tyler Detect. When you have those yearly budget reviews, you can say, look, this is what we got out of Detect this year, and a lot of benefits for sure. So that is digging into the report. So in addition to the reports, and I've alluded to this before, you also have real-time alerts. And before I go to the alerts, I will just sit on this slide for a moment, because I do like to point out a lot of the feedback that we get from our customers once they are up on Detect is that they're really surprised, pleasantly surprised at how much we are monitoring. I can't stress it enough that we want to get a full view of your network activity, servers down to end user machines, and anything and everything in between. So this really shows the breadth of what we're monitoring. Office 365, Microsoft 365 now they like to be called. Just can't stress it enough. That's another big area where we see a lot of compromises. They always seem to originate in the police department. So we reach out to customers, is Detective Smith in Nigeria right now? Because someone's trying to log into his Microsoft 365 account from Nigeria. No, he's sitting right here, and well, let's shut that account down, because somebody's obviously trying to compromise it. But again, gives you a good feel for the breadth of what we're monitoring. And again, like I said, the feedback from our customers, they're very happy. They didn't expect us to be monitoring so much for the price that they're getting it for. So good feedback. But in addition to the reports, you also have real-time alerts. When we find something suspicious and confirm something suspicious, we reach out immediately. A lot of customers say, if it's 2 in the morning and you find something, you're really going to call me? Yes, because we want to make you aware as quickly as possible so that we can mitigate that behavior and make sure your network's as safe and secure as can be. Now, then folks say, if it's 2 in the morning, I'm going to have to wake up, I'm going to get access to my network to be effective. Is this something that Tyler can help us with? So absolutely, when you sign on for the service or at any point with the service, you can actually authorize us to disable infected Windows machines so that we can mitigate that suspicious activity for you, whether it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning. It just, shuts that activity down as quickly as possible. And I've yet to have somebody sign up for the service who didn't give us that authorization to cut the NIC cards basically on those machines as well. But there might be other things that you want to be aware of before the next day's report. Maybe if someone's creating new user accounts at a server level or at a firewall level, or extending excessive user privileges or excessive account lockouts. You can customize these kinds of alerts that you want to be made aware of and how you want to be made aware of them, so that, again, you're up to date on what's occurring on your network as quickly as possible, so that helps you manage it. You also have ongoing support with Tyler Detect, and this is a dedicated support team, which only works on the cybersecurity side of the house. So if you do have another Tyler, if you have a Tyler application, like maybe an ERP application or a school application, that support group is very separate from the cybersecurity support group. They're available 24/7. So let's say it's 8 o'clock at night and you're just now getting to sit down and review the day's Detect report, and you have a question, you can go ahead and call the 800 number. They'll reach right back out to you and go over that question with you. You also have a dedicated support technician during normal business hours that you can reach out to directly, as opposed to going through the 800 number, and people really appreciate that. There's also a great online portal. Sometimes I go out and do an actual demo on this, but I can see with my timing, I need to consolidate a little bit, so I'll talk to my slides. But a great landing page where it's wonderful that Tyler works specifically with our municipal customers because we understand that landscape. But on the cybersecurity side of the house, we actually do have some other customers which really need this and have strong regulations, stringent regulations when it comes to cybersecurity. So we actually work with financial institutions and healthcare institutions. And that's great because it gives us a broader depth of what is occurring out there on the cyber landscape. So we'll present that to you here, really kind of what we're seeing across the board with the type of malware and attack locations. And then once you log into your specific portal, you have kind of workflow at the top. I'll get into that, and anything that we can present that's useful information, because we do have all the information through the log files, we'll graphically represent here for you and provide that data for you to digest. You can actually click into any of this information to get more detailed specifics as wanted. So on that screen at the beginning, the workflow, it said you have questions and some findings. So the questions are things, that we're seeing in your network. I mentioned we want to baseline the normal day-to-day activity. So if something occurs that, we possibly haven't seen before, we want to ask you about it. So it's a great communication tool to pose that. Is this HTTPS connection from San Francisco, California expected? And, you can review it and say, and respond back right through here, communicate to us and say, yes, this is for our Dropbox, our lockbox, and it is expected. So we baseline that behavior. We know what it's about. We don't ask you about it again. So there's questions, and then findings as well. If it were malware, we would have reached out, you would have heard from us. But something like maybe there's a new VPN on your network we haven't seen before. So we bring that to your attention in the findings. And again, you can communicate back and say, yes, we've recently outsourced a application to be cloud hosted. This VPN is for that communication. Again, we understand it, we baseline it, we won't ask about it again. So it's a great communication tool with the portal. It's also where you'll access your daily and monthly and management reports. We bring it up in a nice calendar view. You can also list them if you prefer that view, but you can just quickly click on the button, brings up the PDF version of the report. You can read it right there, or print it, or email it, or save it, whatever you want with that day's report. And then, I mentioned no heavy hardware. We do have you spin up some collection servers, and you can monitor the system health of those servers here and how they're working with providing us with those log files. And then data summary. We provide this at both the firewall and the Windows level, because again, we do have so much information with the log files of what's occurring on your network. So we put all that information here for your review, maybe administration changes, inbound destinations or VPN activities at the Windows level, maybe failed logins, account lockouts, etc. And again, you can drill down into any of this information. You can also create customizable reports. I really like that. If you have to do any research, I kind of call it a detective tool. Maybe you want to see the firewall activity for the last 30 days or get information from a specific server. You can do that as well in an ad hoc reporting tool. So we do show VPN locations on a map. Everyone always seems to love maps, and I love one of our customers came back when I was talking to him after he'd been on Detect for a few months. He's like, we now have a new business rule, compliments of Detect. We had found, and this was long before COVID, and when everyone was accessing through VPNs, but we had found some VPN activity, somebody was trying to log into his account in Pennsylvania, his municipality, from Aruba. And we reached out because we're like, this doesn't happen every day. This is new and interesting to us. And can you tell us any information about this? And at first he couldn't, but then he asked around and realized someone in the finance department was on vacation in Aruba, and the group was like, yeah, he probably took his computer with him, and he's probably trying to access and get some work done. So he goes, we now have a new business rule. If anybody is leaving the country and plans to access through VPN, they need to let IT know, so we're aware and can expect that activity. So I thought that was great. Of course, times have changed a little now, but one day we'll get back there. So I can certainly talk till I'm blue in the face on how great Tyler Detect is, but it really does stand out when you look at the different services and vendors and their offerings out there, and there are a lot. Everyone's trying to get a slice of the cybersecurity pie. But one of the things that sets us apart is that we are monitoring your entire network, all your network log files from the firewall down to each user's computer. And I don't think anybody else takes a broad and comprehensive view, but that comprehensive view really helps us understand the day-to-day workings of your network so that abnormal activity stands out much easier and helps us with many clues to put events into context. We do use automated tools, but it's that manual intelligence, those human analysts that are there 24/7 reviewing your files and anything that stands out as abnormal that helps us really quickly pinpoint anomalies. In our experience, I always tell my customers, there's strength in numbers. So the more Kansas Tyler customers there are, the bigger voice you have. And that really mirrors on our side of the house as well. So the more networks we're monitoring, the better we are at really weeding out that suspicious activity and alleviating false positives, because we might see something new that comes through on Municipality A's network that we've never seen before on their network. But when we compare it with all the other hundreds of networks that we're monitoring, we have seen it before, maybe on dozens of others. So we don't need to spend our time unnecessarily on that activity because we know it's not putting them at risk. So again, like I said, I'll talk till I'm blue in the face, but we have great customer feedback, some great testimonials and case studies that we put out on the website. Mike Caffrey from Blount County, Tennessee says, with Detect, I feel like I have a team working around the clock to uncover all those things I didn't know before. And that's been a big theme since working with this, is we don't know what we don't know. I get that a lot from IT folks, and and it's a hard thing to admit, but we don't know what we don't know. We don't have, and it's not their fault. They don't have the resources or the time to really put towards this. I had one customer when we were going through this. He goes, okay, I understand your big differentiator is that you've got human eyes on my network 24/7. He goes, if I tried to replicate that in-house, I'd probably have to hire 4 to 5 full-time employees to cover 24/7, to cover vacations, sick, etc. He goes, I'd never get the budget for that. So having an effective and cost-effective solution like Detect is very helpful for that. Lori Gagner at Sunrise, Florida, we're very happy with the results from Detect. Having trusted humans monitoring our logs in real time is invaluable. Yes, it's an investment in time and dollars, but it's way less costly than being forced to react after something bad happens. Yes, much less stressful, much less costly, much less of a time crunch to be proactive and have a monitoring service reviewing everything up front, helping you mitigate events when they occur, as opposed to being behind the ball and having a widespread incident at your municipality. Now, the only thing that Lori says, she says it's an investment in time and dollars. Yes, it's investment in dollars. It's an added service to your contract. But in terms of time, it's one of the easiest things you will implement from Tyler Technologies. And I say that and with 100% confidence. And I'll talk about the installation in a couple of slides, but it is the heavy lifting's on our side of the house, and it's one of the quickest and easiest things to get spun up from us. Aaron Costu from Lowndes County, Georgia. There's absolutely no way for a CIO or technology director to be aware of what's going on in their environment without a tool like Tyler Detect. My awareness of my network has increased 80%. Knowing that it also is monitoring my traffic 24/7 for any deviant behaviors, an added bonus that gives me and the county's management team a strong sense of comfort. So he really pinpoints the two big selling points. One, you can sleep easy at night because you know you've got our team working for you, 24/7, making you aware of anything that's putting you at risk. But again, because we have those reports, because of the portal and all that information in there, his awareness of his networks increased 80%, and it will really help you manage your network in that sense with all that information that we do provide in those digestible formats. So the installation, as I mentioned, it is it's a light and nimble deployment. We do have you spin up at the most 3 collection servers. They're just virtual machines so that they're gathering those syslog and sysmon files and transferring them over to our SOC for the analysts to do their work. We use Kiwi applications and just a handful of scripts and stored procedures for that collection. Once you are on board with Detect, we'll have you spin those up. We'll have you fill out some questionnaires with some technical information that we need, but a lot of that is contact information that we need as well. Who are we going to reach out to in the event that this happens? And we don't just want one person's name, because if we can't get through to them, we want several people that we know we can talk to real time and make you aware of what's occurring. So then you schedule the actual install. We need about 60 minutes of time of someone who's knowledgeable on the network, can make sure data is flowing. But then the rest of the heavy lifting is on us, and we finish that installation, and within a day or two, you're getting your reports and you have access to the portal. We will follow up with a training session at your convenience so that we run through the reports, you understand the information that we're providing to you, and we run through the portal so that you know you're getting the most out of that as well. But any questions down the line, you have the 800 number and the ability to reach out and ask those at any point. So Tyler Detect is the main cybersecurity service that we certainly want our customers to have, because it just helps us be better, manage you better if your systems are up and running nonstop and you aren't being impacted with malware and having your networks inaccessible. So we would love for everybody to have this service. But we also provide other cybersecurity services as well. Things like penetration tests, vulnerability scans, training. A lot of folks say, yeah, we train our users all the time, but they still click on what they shouldn't click on. So sometimes it's really effective to have a third party step in and remind employees of the certain things that you should and shouldn't be doing. But we really take cybersecurity seriously and think of it as a maturity model, things that you should be doing year after year to make sure you're keeping your environment as safe and secure as possible. So we can provide any of those services and sit down with you to plan a custom format that works best for you as well. So I've been kind of watching the chat. I've got the window up and hadn't seen any questions coming through yet. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and happy to. If this is a discussion that you said, well, this is great, but I really want my finance director to hear about this, or I want my other folks in IT, maybe my network administrator, to hear this as well, I'm happy. Reach out. I think my next slide has, nope, that's not that one. Has my contact information. And so yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to do this presentation again specifically for your site and talk specifically for your folks. So we are here, and if you are a Tyler customer and have an account rep, you can reach out to them as well. But lots of ways to get in touch, and like I said, I'm happy to continue the conversation.
Is there any questions for Karen from anyone? If there is, you can type it in the chat now, or you can come online with your video and audio and ask it live. I know, Karen, that at least in our perspective at WSU, we've noticed that there's been a little bit more of an uptick because we are at home more, and a lot of us are working virtually. We're required to do an on-demand training once a year, but it's really hard to detect what's real and what's not, because they're getting very clever about guising themselves under people that I engage with a lot. Are there any other tips and tricks about, this is somebody I deal with, and then they've figured out how to get through because they know that that's a customer, right, that I work with? So any tips about how to directly affect that?
Yeah, so I have a whole different presentation I give, which is kind of tips and tricks. But one thing, even if it looks legit, but maybe if there is something to click on this link. If you hover over it, any link, or even in a URL and the address, it's you do / and then 2 dots. So if you go look at the / and go 2 dots ahead, 2 dots back, that's where the URL is going to bring you. So I have all sorts of examples. Orbits might come in and you think you're working with Orbits, but if you do the / and 2 dots back, it's actually like Seat Savers, SEETSAVERS, which is a big clue. First of all, they're not Orbits, and they spelled seat wrong. So you probably don't want to click on that link. I love example, and these are real life examples. Amazon, but it was spelled Amazon, M-A-Z-O-N-E, when you actually looked at the URL where it was going to be taking you. So take a good look at that. Everything on the surface can look as legitimate as can be. This is coming from someone inside my network. They're speaking the way they speak, etc. But yeah, before you click on something, do that little research, and you'll find out that, oh, they're not really taking me to my bank's account. They're taking me to a totally different website, and I don't want to do that. And just hovering over won't do anything. So you can, like I said, do that research. So one little tip that a lot of people come back and say, thank you, I really like that.
Yes, thank you. I really like that. Jeremy Wilmoth is live now, and he wants to ask a question. Go ahead,
Karen,
Jeremy.
thanks so much for your presentation. One other tip that I'll offer that I do, if I get an email and it seems sketchy, I just call the person. I'm like, hey, did you just send me this thing? I've caught so much spam that way that I would encourage everybody on the call just to, you get an email, it's real simple to just call that person, and it takes 2 seconds and you verify it. Sometimes they're annoyed, a lot of times they're not. So, but my question was, Tyler obviously has a software package that they sell. So are you monitoring just Tyler clients, or are you monitoring networks where Tyler is not the ERP?
Yeah, you do not have to have any Tyler applications. This is a service that's independent of what you're running, for ERP or public safety or anything like that. Because as I mentioned, we do have some financial customers and some banking customers which don't use any Tyler applications. And that's it. Everybody likes to say, well, Tyler's so focused on the municipal sector, but in this instance, it's to our credit, because we are seeing different industries and we can see what the hackers are doing across the board, which just helps us keep all the folks safe and secure. So, but yes, no, to answer your question, you don't have to have any Tyler applications.
Great.
And
And the other question I had was, if folks are interested, what is the process for getting a quote, or how would we go about getting more information to see if this is a right fit for our organization?
Yeah, I'm happy to have additional conversations. So pricing, it's funny because we thought, you know, the big push would be with our existing customer base, and we know specifics about them like operating budget. And we do try to base it on operating budget because it keeps our pricing methodology easy, and it is a good way to get a good indication of how large your network is. But we can dig deeper. I would basically just need, you know, like number of servers and number of end user machines, and we can price on that. But it's really simple, and a quote is literally a 2-line quote. You get your yearly subscription fee for Detect and a one-time installation fee. So it's easy for us to do. I'm happy to quote everybody if you want.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Karen, I don't see any other questions, but this has been very helpful and very enlightening. And it's a good reminder that we probably need to be diligent in making sure that we're keeping ourselves safe and our records safe. So thank you again for presenting today. And thank you so much for Tyler Technologies' support and sponsorship of the conference. And we really hope that we get to see you live and in person again at another conference. But everyone, have a wonderful day. And thank you for attending. Tomorrow, feel free to join us for a session that is going to be sponsored by Raymond James, and it's by Craig Lessner with GFOA, who's going to be talking about why nobody wants to read your budget. And he's going to give you some tips and tricks on how to communicate financial information to those who are not in finance. So thank you again, and we will see you all tomorrow.